Today's story is called The Prodigal Son. This is a story that Jesus told. Whilst Jesus was on earth, he told lots of stories. He liked to tell stories to people because it helped them to put a picture in their minds, which would help them to remember the message that was in the story. Now, today's story he was telling to his special friends, and it was about God's love. And this is what happened. One day there was a man, and he lived in his home with his children. Now, one of the children said to his father, he said, "I'm a bit bored of living here. I would like to go out and explore the world." But he didn't just want to explore the world and go and see the world out there. He wanted to do lots of things that maybe were not the best choices. Maybe they were things that were more choices that showed broken love rather than showing love. So he asked his father if he could have his money. And so the father had some money, and usually the money that the father had would be given to his children once the father wasn't here anymore, once the father had died. But the son said, "I want to have my inheritance, my money, sooner, because I want to go and spend it." And so the father was really quite sad. He was sad that his son might not make the right choices. He was sad that his son might make choices to break love. But he said to his son, "Okay, you can have the money." And so he gave the son his share of the money. And the son was so excited. He had big adventures in mind, and he had lots of things that he had planned to do. And off he went and found the big city. And when he was in the big city, he did lots of things with the money. He spent money on things that he shouldn't spend money on. He had lots of parties. He gave lots of money to people that weren't really his friends, people that were just pretending to be his friends so that he would spend his money on them. And he kept on doing this until he had spent all of his father's money. Now, he might have had a really good time having lots of parties, but actually what he'd done was to waste all of what his father had given him. And all it was about having a good time in the city. Once the son had spent all of his money, he didn't feel happy anymore. He began to feel sad. And he began to feel the pain of what it would feel like if love was broken. Maybe his heart was beginning to feel broken. And he found himself all alone. And he had no money for food. He had no money to live anywhere. And he was feeling really, really sad. And he began to wish that he hadn't made the choices to ask his father for all of his money and to waste the money and not make good choices, and how he had forgotten to show love. So the boy had to go and find somewhere to stay, and he managed to find himself a job which was feeding the pigs. But this wasn't very nice. It was a very smelly job, and all he could do was to eat the food that he fed to the pigs. And so during this time, the young boy had a good think about what had happened and about the choices that he'd made. And he decided that even though it'd be very difficult to go back to his father and to tell him about how he'd wasted all of his money, that was the only choice that he could do that would help him to show love again. And so the boy set off back home. It was a long, long journey. He'd gone a long way to the city. Now, meanwhile, whilst the son had been out in the city, the father had been feeling sad. He knew that his son had not made the right choices, and he was worried about him. And even though he'd given him all of his money to spend, he didn't care about that. He just longed to see his son again because he loved him so much. And so every day the father would come out and have a look to see if he could see his son in the distance. And most days he had to go back in his house and wait a little longer because he wasn't there. Then one day the father came out, and oh my goodness, he couldn't believe his eyes. He saw his son coming all the way back to him. And you know, he wasn't cross, he wasn't angry, he didn't show broken love to his son, even though he knew that he must have wasted all of his money. He opened his arms really wide and welcomed his son back to him. He showed love to his son, and his son explained to his father about how he had made choices that were not good with the money, and all of his money was gone. And he asked his father if he could only just come and live back in the home. He wouldn't ask for anything else. He'd ask for no more money. He just needed to be safe and feel his father's love again. And do you know what the father did? The father welcomed him in with open arms, and then he threw him a party. And they had lots of lovely food to eat. And he celebrated the return of his son. You see, the father wasn't interested in the money. He wasn't interested in the things anymore that his son had done to show broken love, because the son was sorry. The son's heart felt sorry, and he was ready to show love again. And you know, Jesus is like that, and God is like that with every single one of us. No matter what choices we make when we show broken love, if our hearts feel sorry and we are truly sorry and ready to show love again, Jesus and God will always welcome us back with open arms, ready to hold us close and to be close to us and love us always. So I wonder if there's anything that you can think of where you've shown some broken love. Maybe you haven't always made the best choices. I wonder if your heart feels sorry and you are ready to show love again.